Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us. I am Dr. Anarita Bashaliva, along with co-host Dr. Victor Fett, Dr. Katerina Shrey, and our program producer, Professor Larry Sherey. We host a weekly discussion panel on Russia's war on Ukraine with guests from Ukraine, military experts, medical personnel, academics, artists, literary figures, and relief workers. Our panel is recorded and circulated nationally and internationally. We appreciate your comments and feedback. Special thanks to Marshall University Libraries and MUIT for making this weekly event possible. If you are joining us live on Teams, please feel free to use the chat to post any question for our guest. Today's guest will be introduced by Professor Victor Fett.
Hello, everyone. Вітаємо наших слухачів в Україні. I'm very glad to introduce today Vladyslav Faraponov, who joins us from Kyiv. He is the founder and board of Institute of American Studies in Kyiv. And while Vladyslav was born and raised in Ukraine, he actually graduated from Wright State University in Ohio, which is next door to us, we're in West Virginia. And the Institute of American Studies, about which Vladyslav will tell us, promotes and explains U.S. foreign and domestic policy. Vladyslav, the microphone is yours. Please talk to us.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for the invitation. It's a great opportunity and a huge honor for me to talk to you. Actually, warm greetings from Kyiv. It's really warm in Kyiv, and I hope everyone is having a good time when they turn in. So my name is Vladyslav Faraponov. I will start by giving a few remarks about myself. Then I will provide a short overview of my perception of US-Ukraine relations, and then I will show my own research on more constant matters, I would say, like foreign aid, in particular the US foreign aid. And I will be happy to take some questions if needed. So last year, I founded the Institute of American Studies NGO. It's a non-profit organization, and I have been engaged in American studies for almost 5 years, and I would like to develop this area of expertise in Ukraine. As Victor mentioned, I studied in Ohio at Wright State University, and then I completed my law and public policy education here in Ukraine. I would like to mention that my slides, as well as my speech today, are my work only, so I do represent myself only, despite the affiliation I have. So after a full-scale invasion, actually, Ukraine naturally looks almost every day at who helped and how much. Because we really see that unfortunately time is not helping Ukraine, and we have lost already a great deal of men and women and children who had become the victims of Russian attacks, who have been killed while defending Ukraine. And I would like also to mention that we in Ukraine do everything, actually, thanks to the armed forces of Ukraine, and we appreciate their great sacrifice and service to this great land. So actually, I would say that, of course, the United States has something to demonstrate, to say the least, about U.S. aid to Ukraine since the full-scale invasion started, and I will mention some sources where you can find more interesting information. I will do that kind of just a bit later, but I would like to mention that actually, despite these great efforts to help Ukraine at least survive this actually horrible invasion and this brutal War, from Ukraine's perspective, as my slides indicate, these efforts are not enough to let Ukraine win, and this topic is a great debate in Ukraine among policy experts, even despite those who do not have, I would say, a huge expertise on the United States, and at the same time, it is clear enough, even for those experts, that we really need to have more in terms of security assistance, but at the same time, I would say the approach also should be changed, and I would like to mention that also a bit later. So I would like to mention that I'm a big fan of Harry Truman's life and legacy, and I think many Ukrainians would be the same if they knew more about what actually the Truman administration did for the world. Unfortunately, although now the Democratic administration is in office, not many approaches, I would say, or directions of the US foreign policy, like in the Truman times, have been implemented. And at the same time, we do see that the tendency in the United States is to perceive Russia as kind of a secondary threat to the United States, and from both actual major parties. And kind of personally, for me, for example, as a person who actually basically does it every day in terms of kind of promoting US-Ukraine relations, it's a great picture to see how this approach is kind of dominating the foreign policy narrative. So at the bottom of my slide, you can see the major perception of the Truman doctrine, and unfortunately, I would say that in my view, despite the great expertise on Ukraine in the Biden administration, unfortunately, not so many approaches have been implemented in terms of understanding the real threat that is coming not only from China but also from Russia, of course, not to mention this cooperation between Russia, North Korea, and Iran. So I'm studying actually foreign aid for a couple of years now, and I also see how this issue is underrepresented in Ukraine, how Ukrainians got actually trapped in understanding how actually foreign aid really works. And unfortunately, many people also kind of many of them are experts or even decision makers. They don't understand how foreign aid works, in particular the United States foreign aid. And sometimes they claim, for example, that aid is provided due to, for example, security interests of the United States. And unfortunately, not so many people in Ukraine are able to understand that. And I think it's a great problem for Ukraine, for Ukraine's foreign policy right now. And for example, in this slide, you can see how the metrics of kind of long-term interests are defined in the literature. And I would say that despite the new efforts that are coming from experts, from journalists, that kind of they're trying to also to work as lobbyists, I would say actually, despite the fact that this word is not having a good, I would say attitude in Ukraine. So really now Ukraine tries to work hard in terms of advocacy and in terms of delivering this message that Ukraine can help the United States actually win in all these four dimensions regarding the security interest or interests of the United States in general. But At the same time, we also do see that sometimes some steps that have been made in terms of assisting Ukraine also are long overdue. For example, like at this picture, you can see um, the Patriot system, and unfortunately, the decision to provide Ukraine with Patriots and the decision to actually to start the trainings at least also have been made couple of months at least after Ukraine was expecting the United States to do so. So, speaking of aid, the US, as a major donor of assistance to Ukraine, is always obviously faced with internal and foreign policy dilemmas. Actually, whether it should provide this aid now, and if so, in what amount and under what conditions. So my argument is that after the first month of the Ukraine's struggle against a full-scale war with Russia, in particular, thanks to successful counteroffensive in the first month of the war by the armed forces of Ukraine, the Biden administration actually realized that supporting Ukraine was not only in the national security interest of the United States, but also that Ukraine's victory should be achieved, especially with the help of America. And of course, we can say that, for example, Russia actually failed to achieve any of its, for example, strategic goals in this brutal war. And this point is kind of reiterated many times by the US State Department, for example. But at the same time, I would say if you ask Ukrainians about this matter, actually, this phrase, this statement, it really doesn't do us, I would say, any good, because we still have attacks, even in Kyiv, like the children's hospital of Madrid, the very unique of its kind, and again, we see that unfortunately, even having a great coalition of partners, I'm talking about the so-called Rammstein group, as we call it in Ukraine, but officially it is called Ukraine Defense Contact Group. So even despite all these efforts, we still see the marks of Russian brutal attacks almost every day in every major city in Ukraine, even in some part of even in some cities of Western Ukraine, for example. So actually, to continue with my argument, I would like to mention that I think I saw how US officials have rethought their strategy, and I would say significantly increased the amount of American aid to Ukraine, and even if we compare some countries that have received a lot of, for example, US foreign aid, like Israel, Afghanistan, some years after the end of the World War II, it was Britain, it was France, but at the same time, the amount of assistance that Ukraine has received from the United States is really extraordinary, and we are also really grateful for that assistance, and we understand that it's a great amount of money, even if we are speaking about security assistance. But at the same time, it is usually evaluated by money value. So, yeah, I would like to mention some trends about U.S. foreign aid, in particular U.S. U.S. security assistance to Ukraine. So in the year of 2022 and the year after, actual security assistance packages have been mostly funded via almost $50 billion in supplemental appropriations. So it was not in the general budget, as we call it in Europe. So this amount includes almost 25 billion to replenish DoD, the Department of Defense stocks that have been sent to Ukraine via presidential kind of drawdown authority program. Also, around $18 billion for the initiative called Ukraine Security Assistance Initiative, and in this year, actually, security assistance packages are being funded mostly via 28.8 billion in supplemental appropriations as well. So I would say that, again, despite a great deal of criticism in Ukraine about not going as fast as Ukraine needed, this trend, at the same time, in my view, it showed that the U.S. administration at least actually sought to respond to Ukraine's rapidly changing needs. In addition, the decision to replenish the DoD stockpiles, but to provide Ukraine with weapons that can be transferred quickly is, in my view, another indicator that arming Kyiv for self-defense is, and I hope actually will be, at least in top 5 priorities of the administration, if we are speaking about the security issue. So actually, another important fact that unfortunately, I would say many people in Ukraine don't understand, that the amount of weapons that the United States itself can produce, for example, during a fiscal year, is limited and not, and it does not correspond, it does not match with the Ukraine's needs. And unfortunately, again, this rhetoric has been used by those who say that the United States has actually supported Ukraine too much, and now it is time for Europe to step up. So actually, I would say the situation is that the United States has also increased the production of critical munitions and equipment, and in some cases, actually, the United States has also doubled and or even in some cases actually tripled its capabilities. So another important issue that, for example, the Ukraine Security Assistance Initiative is an initiative that allows the US to actually purchase weapons for Ukraine, either from industry inside the US or from partners. And the presidential initiative is just stockpile replenishment. But at the same time, I would say another important aspect of the fact that the United States is the biggest supporter of Ukraine is that, in addition to, of course, security assistance, which again we are really grateful for, also actually Washington provides Kyiv with large-scale economic assistance, including direct support for the state budget. And I do hope that that many of you are actually well aware that in the bill that has been passed recently, and that bill was kind of, I would say, kind of long awaited in Ukraine. The issue of economic assistance also has been a great debate, and kind of luckily for Ukraine it was included there. But in my view, it is actually plausible to assume that soon, or next year, or a couple of years after that, actually, it is possible that economic assistance for Ukraine will not be in these supplemental appropriations. So actually, as at the end of the summer of 2023, the United States has also provided about 50 million in economic assistance. In particular, the United States aid to Ukraine actually allowed the Ukrainian government to pay salaries to civil servants since the budget funds of Ukraine had to be spent actually mostly to the needs of the armed forces. So actually, this is the like another issue that unfortunately many actual citizens of Ukraine's partners really don't understand, that kind of none of Ukraine's partners that have provided a lot of aid to Ukraine, these funds, they do not cover the needs to actually finance the armed forces. It's either the security assistance, the humanitarian aid, or the economic assistance, and of course we have to pay salaries to those members of the armed forces who are directly on the front line, and also to those who are not. So I would say that it is really important that at least to this point, the US actually stated that it cannot allow Ukraine to lose the war for economic reasons, actually, when it has demonstrated its ability to succeed on the battlefield. But at the same time, this issue of economy versus the needs of the military is also a great debate here in Ukraine. And unfortunately, in terms of advocacy efforts to get more of this kind of assistance to Ukraine, I think many in Ukraine actually, and those actually who are involved in decision-making process in the foreign policy debate, they also actually don't understand that also we can do better in explaining this issue to audience like you, for example. So in particular, why Ukraine is in need of economic aid, simply because the majority of domestic resources are spent on defense. So basically, let me go further to my own research, and after that, I will continue with some general stuff, and after that, I will be happy to talk more about more recent developments. So I've recently actually concluded my own research on US foreign aid. I took almost, or actually more than 7,000 cases. I was able to use the data that was provided or that was uploaded by the US government, and kind of luckily the kind of the issue of US assistance is getting more attention recently, but I have been able to use, I would say, very unique database that has not been seen, I would say, by many experts, by those who are doing the research. So I took the amount of foreign aid that the United States have spent and have sent to almost 170 countries, I believe, and the minimum amount of assistance that have been included in the database is $500,000, and I took the data on foreign aid, and I compared it with some some variables. As you can see on the slide, in particular, I took the number of security treaties of US aid recipients, and unfortunately, there is only one database actually that is made by the RAND Corporation. Also, I took the participatory democracy from 0 to 1, and also I took the number of disasters as the indicator of the humanitarian needs. And the point of that research was actually to have more arguments for the Ukraine side to understand the process of US foreign aid allocation, but also the priorities and how they have been changing also through time. So in the first regression, I used the random effects model. I took the level of participatory democracy that has been provided by the VDM project, and as you see that actually the majority of assistance really is dependent on the level of democracy of the recipient state. But at the same time, we also see that especially before the year of 1991 or before the end of the Cold War, actually there are also many cases that some states actually have received a lot of US assistance, but at the same time their level of democracy was not so good. However, after the end of the Cold War, when the rhetoric of democracy promotion in Ukraine, actually where the rhetoric of democracy promotion in the world have reached its peak, I would say that the results actually demonstrate that the level of democracy again is shown that kind of more countries that have been more democratic received the majority of assistance, but at the same time, as in the previous period, there are many countries that have not received like a lot of yes aid and their level of democracy also wasn't so good. The next illustration probably is not the best of its kind, but at the same time, it is also evident that that the number of US security treaties also plays an important role in terms of priorities of US assistance. And I would say this is another lesson for Ukraine, and kind of luckily this lesson is more obvious now to Ukraine's policymakers, but at the same time it was not so evident, I would say, before the invasion of Russia in February 2 years ago, because unfortunately, actually many of Ukraine's policymakers and also and especially those who are engaged in talks with the United States, they didn't have this institutional vision. So kind of luckily, kind of this year, Ukraine have concluded the bilateral security agreement with the United States, but at the same time, again, the team of President Zelensky was trying to do that in the first year of the Biden administration in office. At the same time, I think it was in August and in September of 2021, it was not evident that this administration was going to give Ukraine what Ukraine was asking. Another interesting finding is that kind of despite of the fact that if a country has more of disasters of all kinds, of course it will more likely to receive more assistance, but at the same time, as you can see, even in the second period, for example, the number of disasters, especially over 20, does not have kind of direct impact on the amount of US aid that have been received. So actually, this study that I've concluded recently, I believe it is very important to understand it kind of both in terms of Ukraine's perspective and also in terms of the donor perspective, in particular in this case, the United States. So in every major case in terms of foreign aid, actually the concept of realism kind of will be the leading one. And in kind of this study, it actually kind of it confirms it, and we see that the number of assistance that have been sent to recipient states has a direct impact on those countries that have been in touch with the United States regarding any security treaties. At the same time, the kind of the level of democracy, for example, in 1991 till 2019 also has a high impact on the amount of aid that have been received, and I believe this is another important lesson for Ukraine. Unfortunately, or not unfortunately, Ukraine's legislation does not allow to proceed with elections during the wartime. So the state of democracy is highly debated. I'm well aware of that in Western circles, but at the same time, this debate, I would say, is actually is over in Ukraine, because we do have other matters to worry about, like electricity, like Russian attacks, like economy, and stuff like that. And also my argument is that Ukraine really got enough symbols, and Ukraine right now is awaiting for more decisive actions, in particular from the United States. Because in particular on the right slide, or on the right part of the slide, you can see the process of signing the so-called Ukraine Democracy Defense Land-Lease Act, and I cannot express the feeling of like in the society actually when this bill was passed in Congress. I remember actually watching it online. It was spring of 2024. It was late night in Ukraine. Actually, many Ukrainian media outlets even took the procedural vote as the final one. So everyone was watching how this act was passed and actually what would come next. But at the same time, this act actually wasn't enforced, and Ukraine received no assistance under this legislation. And unfortunately for Ukraine, this opportunity expired at the end of the fiscal year of 2023, and still many in Ukraine actually kind of don't get this fact. And for example, today, when on the pages of the Wall Street Journal, the so-called kind of Trump plan of ending actually Russia-Ukraine war appeared by Mike Pompeo, the former Trump's actual Secretary of State. Then he proposed a new kind of Lend-Lease Act for Ukraine for $500 billion. At the same time, I do not see the political will in the United States to vote for that amount of money. And I don't think it's reasonable to assume that that amount of money can be used even for that program. But I would say this is another signal that we are kind of getting in Ukraine. We understand that the rhetoric of the Republican Party is also moving to that direction, to provide assistance to Ukraine in terms of loans and kind of not as assistance itself. But at the same time, I do hope that kind of those in the Ukrainian government actually also understand that it is especially important for the United States to have institutional forms of cooperation, especially with Ukraine right now, because we are, I would say, monitoring news about US elections in Ukraine every day, and we are all kind of reading the news, and many in Ukraine really are afraid of Donald Trump and his potential return to the White House. And unfortunately, we have not heard directly from him the details of his plan, of his idea to end the full-scale war. And in particular, if if you ask me, I would say that there are a couple of questions that Ukrainians would like to hear from Trump or from his team. In particular, they include if the Trump administration or if the Trump circle is ready to push Putin, because we are concerned about the fact that the Trump administration will likely, or it will be easier for them to push Ukraine to to kind of recognize the sovereignty of Russia on Ukraine's temporarily occupied kind of territories, and we have not heard from Trump again about details of his plan. At the same time, I cannot say that Ukrainians are kind of satisfied with the amount of, and also with the speed of US assistance. And I do hope that the departure of President Biden from the election campaign actually will help him understand that, for example, lifting restrictions to also strike inside Russia using, in particular, the American weapons is also the decision that have been long awaited in Ukraine. And as for now, as he does not have any electoral issues, I mean, in particular, President Biden, I would say the attitude and the discussions in Ukraine are that we are also waiting for more decisive actions, for more actions like we have heard from America before in the Cold War times. Again, I refer to the Truman Doctrine, to Reagan times, and we do hope that the United States understand that also Russia is a great threat to the United States led actual world order, and if the United States spend a lot of time actually building this world order, it will be a catastrophe if we do not see an elephant that has been always, or at least more than 20 years in the room, and also that has been quite evident in its plans. In this case, I refer to the speech of Putin in Munich of 2007, and also his invasion of Georgia the year later, and also the invasion of Crimea. And I do hope that the United States will understand how much is at stake, and Ukraine really doesn't need more symbols in terms of kind of bilateral relations, and also in terms of security. I would like just to mention some sources where you can check U.S. Policy, U.S. aid for Ukraine to avoid a lot of disinformation that has been spread. In particular, I refer to the fact sheet by the State Department. It is called U.S. Security Cooperation with Ukraine. It updates. It has updates every 2 weeks or so, and it is the only, I would say, like regional information about, in particular, about U.S. security assistance. I'm not talking about other types of assistance, but at the same time, the security assistance is the key. And another independent source that I would like to recommend, and I know that that many in Ukraine also refer to this source. It is Ukraine support tracker by the Kyiv Institute of the world economy, and it is quite interactive, as you can see on the slide, and also you can scroll down, you can put some specific countries actually on the map, and kind of, I believe it's really important to understand that this instrument, it also has kind of reference to the country's GDP and how the allocations of assistance are compared to the specific GDP of that or the other country. So that's all that I was going to talk right now. I don't know, like, if we have some questions. If not, I think.
Thank you, Vladyslav. This was very, very comprehensive and very important. We haven't seen such good analysis on our program, honestly. Anara, you have a question, please.
Thank you very much for great presentation. We need more presentation like this. I hope it's only beginning, because we talk a lot about aid, but ordinary people have no idea of what is the structure of this help. And my question is, what is included in the US aid package? As taxpayers, we also would like to know. And for instance, under umbrella of Ukrainian aid, we can see US military presence in Europe, intelligence. Some funding stays in US economy because of we have a industrial military complex. And my second question is, the largest donor after US, Germany, UK, and Denmark. It surprised me. Denmark is a relatively small country. And can you tell us what might be the cost of delay of American help if we consider this pessimistic scenario? Thank you.
Yeah, kind of let me start from basically from the last question. As President Zelensky said many times, and I will not be as creative as he is, but I will just reiterate actually what he said. Like, we are just wasting our friends' lives every day. The delay of assistance means that more soldiers will not have the ammunition that they need. Even if we are talking just about funding, for example, even some trainings that have been conducted abroad have been stopped due to the pause in in assistance, and of course we cannot, I would say, blame the United States for that, because again, as I mentioned, we are really grateful for all the assistance actually that have been provided. But it is important also to understand Ukraine's perspective on that issue. That, like, while these discussions about the need to provide aid are conducted like every day on our Facebook or in our working chats. Every day we are sending money either to the front line to cover the needs that obviously the state, even, like, it doesn't matter, Ukraine or any other country, it does not it cannot cover. I mean, kind of, these are the needs that are emerging, I would say, every day. And of course we are also unfortunately kind of sending money to those families who have lost soldier, who have lost a husband, who have lost a father. And it is really, I would say, it's not easy to move forward after this kind of horrible news. And kind of, this is the cost that we are talking about in Ukraine. And it's not just the rhetoric, it's unfortunately actions, kind of young people, especially young boys. I cannot even say men, because they are just 18 years old, kind of 19, and a lot of young people are also going to serve in the Ukrainian army. But, like, if you're speaking about the US assistance as a whole, so as I mentioned before, the majority of assistance is kind of related to security needs, and the United States has several programs to kind of run these funds through them. And like, if we are speaking about other type of like another type of assistance, it is obviously the economic assistance and also the humanitarian one, because especially during the first year, the humanitarian assistance was also, I would say, one of the most important, because many families have been forced to kind of relocate or within Ukraine, or even to move abroad, because simply their places, their cities, their villages have been either invaded, or Russia was trying to invade, or Russia invaded, and then the Ukrainian armed forces actually moved them back, or their home was kind of targeted by a drone, a missile. Actually, my family has, I would say, some friends that, for example, people have been actually have been some people have been working kind of really hard and kind of were trying to get the best for their family, and the missile just actually struck down the roof, and I cannot express my feelings actually when I saw the flat that has been ruined by a missile, and I would say we don't wish everyone to imagine that, because it's really horrible to imagine that. But I would say we are asking at least to understand, and again, this is kind of very important that these stories, kind of these actually personal stories have been told, and as as we see, the best thing is to have discussions or talks like this one, and also to provide sometimes we call it kind of testimonials from people who can say who also can say from their own experience. And I'm really grateful for the opportunity to talk to you, to present our work, and like if you would like to support me in particular or my colleagues, you can subscribe to our organization, the Institute of American Studies. We are new, but I would say very ambitious organization, and we are trying also to do our best to explain the very difficult policy and aspects of U.S. foreign policy, also towards Ukraine. And as I mentioned before, kind of many in Ukraine are, I would say, watching the U.S. presidential elections, especially, very close, and they are trying to monitor the news almost every day.
Great, thank you very much. My last question, because I am just, I think that it's a great idea to create Institute of American Studies. Do you cooperate with other organizations, think tanks, or any non-profits in America or in EU or in Ukraine?
I would say that we have just started, and so kind of despite the fact that the initiative was launched kind of last year, our first and kind of idea basically was to help Ukrainians understand kind of complicated parts of U.S. foreign policy. So at first we were kind of mostly focused on Ukraine, and for example, we were helping Ukrainian media experts, Ukrainian journalists, or those kind of actual foreign policy experts who just don't have the expertise on the United States to understand these issues through videos, explainers, articles, actually various posts, and other initiatives. At the same time, we are trying to expand our network of partners, and we are trying to get more of kind of close cooperation with the United States organizations, in particular think tanks. But again, it is also sometimes challenging because men are prohibited to leave the country generally, but some some people can leave the country for a very short period of time, but we need to have the permission to leave. So unfortunately, actually many organizations are not so eager to kind of start cooperation from online. And I would say that we are trying our best to expand this network, but again, this is just a new initiative, and I believe like everyone in my team also like is working hard to get us more kind of promoted in the world, in the United States, in Europe, but also it's important to understand that it is really hard even to normally kind of work in Ukraine because of the power outages, because of the economic situation, because of various kind of family matters. But as we in Ukraine say, we actually we can't complain compared to what the members of the armed forces have been through. So we're just trying to do our job, and we are trying to support the armed forces, to support those who are making the key decisions, because it's also very hard for us to see how difficult it is for Ukraine to get another like another package of assistance, especially from the United States, and we understand that sometimes it's not an easy conversation, and also we are trying to support and to provide more arguments for Ukraine's decision makers in that area, in that direction as well.
Great, thank you.
Thank you very much, Vladyslav,
Thank you
for your valuable time, and it's really remarkable the work you're doing, and we wish you and your team all the best, and we definitely would like to have anyone from your team again on our program, especially after the historical election, which will matter a lot, we are all sure, for Ukraine assistance. Thank you so much for being with us once again from all of us. We'll make sure that we disseminate this video recording. And let me just wish all the best to you and everyone in Ukraine at this moment. Slava Ukraine.
Thank you. Героям слава.
Thank you. Thank you very much.